Today we'll be talking about how to build your own marimba mallets here on the Percussion Discussion. So the best part about building your own mallet is that everything about it is completely customizable. You can choose the length of your shaft, the material of your core, and even the color of your yarn. It's all up to what you think sounds the best on the marimba and is most comfortable when you play. Now, before we begin building our mallet, we need to understand the anatomy of our mallet. There's three main pieces. The first is your shaft. This is commonly made out of birch or rattan. I highly recommend using birch. It's much easier to resource and a whole lot easier to work with. Secondly, you have your core. Now, cores can basically be made out of anything. Most companies will use a rubber ball or something similar. I've chosen to use a wood ball wrapped in a bit of rubber. It gives me a mellow tone that I enjoy, and it also gives me a much lighter mallet. And then thirdly, you have your yarn wrap. Now, learning to wrap a mallet can be somewhat difficult, but once you get used to it and have a lot of time to practice, it actually becomes quite a simple process. Now, with all that said, let's move on to the construction process. To begin the process of going from a simple wooden dowel to a finished mallet, we first need to go over our materials. We first have our 5/16 inch birch dowel. I've cut it down into a 16 1/4 inch section. In order to do that, you'll need a saw, and then you'll also need a few types of sandpaper so that you can shave down the dowel and also give yourself a rounded edge on the bottom so it's more comfortable while you're playing. Next, you'll need the materials for your core. I've chosen a wooden ball surrounded in some rubber tape. And with that, I have the glue that I can put the core onto the shaft with. And last but certainly not least, your yarn so that you can do the wrap at the top. And with that, you'll need a crescent moon needle. That's how you're going to get these stitches at the top and the bottom of your mallet, just to ensure that the yarn doesn't come off of your mallet while you're playing. Now on to the building. So we'll start with our dowel. This is regular dowel, I haven't done any sanding quite yet. Now I've built this little block and I put some sandpaper on the top of it just to give me a hard surface to bear down on while I'm trying to do the bottom edge of my dowel. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go along, and I'm not going to actually do it because I know the sound would be pretty awful through a microphone, but I'm just going to scrape across while constantly turning the dowel so that I can slowly round out the edge on the bottom. And once I have a pretty rough idea of that, I'm going to go in with some finer sandpaper. I believe I have a 220 and a 320 grit, and I'll just finish that out to get a really nice rounded tip. I don't know if you can quite see it through the camera, but I have the rounded tip all done on this piece. And I've also gone back with the 220 and the 320 over the entire dowel so that no matter where I'm handling the mallet, it always feels comfortable. So, moving on from there, we're going to now attach the core. I've already put my little core together, I've put my tape around, and I've also cut these little slits just to make sure it'll bend in when I actually put the yarn on it. In order to do this, we're going to take some of our super glue. Quickly, maybe. Oopsie. Okay, we'll take some of our super glue. Just going to do a very simple line of it around the top of the mallet. And I'm going to take the hole and put it right over that, over the glue. And since I've drilled the hole to match the dowel, just have to push it in. It probably will be a pretty tight fit, but you'll just get it on there like that, and then you'll let it dry. Normally it takes about 30 minutes, I think, for this glue to dry. It's just some regular Gorilla Glue, clear glue. Now, with that done, we'll move on to this one. I did this one a bit earlier, just so we can save some time. And the only thing left to do on our mallet is put the yarn wrap on. Now, I'll bring the camera up a bit closer so you can actually see how we do this process. Alright, to start the wrapping process, we'll go ahead and grab our mallet and also some of our yarn. First step is to tie the yarn around the mallet horizontally and just tie a simple knot. All this is going to do is hold the yarn in place while we start our wrap. Feel free to cut off any of the excess if it's in the way. Now, take the yarn, wrap it underneath the core and then over top the core, but make sure that you miss the center. Turn the mallet and do the same. Go underneath and back over the top, missing the center. Repeat this many times. It's vital that you keep that hole in the center open because that's where we'll pass our needle through when we do our stitching at the end. As you're wrapping, do your best to fill in any gaps or holes as you go around the mallet. Keep an eye out for when your mallet has a consistent cover of yarn and no holes or gaps around it. This is when you know you can stop wrapping. Once you've completed the wrap, loop some yarn around the shaft. This is what you'll use to stitch. Make sure you keep it tight so that the mallet doesn't come apart. This is the crescent moon shaped needle I mentioned earlier. You can get these at most craft stores. The yarn may prove difficult to get into the needle. The way I do it is I split the end of the yarn into 4 different lengths, and then I get each length through individually, and then I can pull it all through to get the entire piece of yarn through the needle. Now comes the top stitch. Once you've threaded your needle, go ahead and push it through the top hole and then out the side of the wrap. Move it slightly to the side, push it back through the top hole and then outside the wrap, and repeat this process until you've stitched around the entire top of the mallet. Now for the bottom stitch. After your last stitch on top, bring the needle down and then up through the bottom of the mallet and then out the side of the mallet. Once again, bring the needle back around, back up through the bottom of the wrap, and then back outside the side of the mallet. And then repeat this process until you've gone all the way around the bottom of the mallet. Once you've completed your last stitch, go ahead and bury the needle into the side of the mallet a couple times and pull the yarn taut. What this will do is secure the yarn inside your mallet and make sure that it never comes loose, and you also don't have any ugly knots. Go ahead and cut off the leftover yarn from the side of the mallet. And there you have it, a finished mallet. Hopefully you now know how to make your own mallets. If you have any questions or suggestions whatsoever, please don't be afraid to post them in the comments. And if you want more content relating to percussion, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll have more content coming out soon. Thanks for watching, take care, and goodbye.